This is it. This is it. This is it. This is it. Rip, Turk, you are done. I got the 42. Fuck yeah. 0.2 baby. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Get hype.
And with that, over the course of 4 days, thanks to the combined efforts of Sinister, Zallard, and McHazard, 3 of Turk's times went down. But of course, Matt Turk still held 6 untied records, and the more they played, the more these 6 times seemed ridiculously impressive. Keep in mind that some of the game's top players have been trying for 4 years now, and they were only able to match or beat about half of them. Let's take a look at Turk's Don Flamenco 2 time, 123.97. This one was a bit of a unique case. Skill-wise, it was actually one of the easiest times in the game, but luck-wise, it was absolutely brutal. See, the way Don 2 works is whenever he's about to throw a punch, you can hit him while he's winding up either in the gut or in the face. On the first punch you throw, and every 7th punch after that, you'll get a guaranteed star. On every punch between, as long as you're holding a star, you have a 1 in 16 chance in getting another star. And believe me, that is horrible from a speedrunning perspective. For example, you can theoretically get 3 random stars in a row on Don 2, which would be great, but your odds in that are 1 in 4,096. His health refill in Phase 2 is also random. There's a 1 in 8 chance he gives the lowest health refill, a 3 in 8 chance he gives a middle refill, and a 4 in 8 chance he gives the bad refill. If you press select before the fight to lower your health to half, as speedrunners often do on this fight, that also makes his Phase 3 refill random, with just a 1 in 8 chance he gets up with the smallest amount of health. Why the programmers made Don 2 like this is unknown. It's not like anybody would pay attention to these random stars or refills when casually playing the game. But it leads to some pretty ridiculous fights if you get the luck. The tool-assisted speedrun of Don 2 gets 5 random stars and both of the low 1 in 8 refills, achieving a time of under a minute. The odds of getting those stars and refills is about 1 in 6.7 million. Turk's 123.97 was much slower, but Punch-Out players worked out that beating it still required odds of about 1 in 176. They would need a random star from one of the first 2 opportunities, then the middle 3 in 8 refill in Phase 2, then finally the 1 in 8 low refill in Phase 3. Someone just had to grind it out. And the guy who did it was a fairly unknown Punch-Out runner named Cananophone, whose specialty was speedrunning The Legend of Zelda. But he had also done some work in Punch-Out, and for some reason he gravitated toward fighting Don 2. And on May 28, 2014, after hundreds of attempts, he got all of the luck to align.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. Hey, beat Don 2.
He had only beaten Turk by 1 decimal, but that didn't matter. Don 2 was done, and another of Turk's times had fallen. Matt Turk still had 5 times left. These remaining times had each stood unbeaten for more than half a decade. In that same length of time, the Ocarina of Time record had been lowered by 55 minutes, Super Metroid had been lowered by 5 minutes, and Super Mario Bros. Had been lowered by, well, 2 seconds. But the fact that even serious efforts from several of the world's top Punch-Out players hadn't been able to break these 5 times was just extraordinary. One of the most brutal times remaining was Turk's Bald Bull 1 fight. It featured a combination of crazy luck, really precise timings, and the need for persistence. Turk said it took him over 1,000 attempts to achieve this time. Keep in mind, to get an attempt at Bald Bull, you have to put in the password for Don Flamenco 1, then beat him, King Hippo, and Great Tiger. So, it took him a really long time to get his 58.99. The way he did it was by simply attempting to replicate the tool-assisted fight as closely as he could. And it was a brutal strategy indeed. It involved needing 3 random 50-50 stars throughout the fight, 2 specific patterns from Bald Bull, and numerous frame-perfect or close-to-frame-perfect punches throughout. The odds worked out to just a 2.3% chance, or about 1 in 43. There's actually been some confusion over what Turk's exact time was. initially being reported as a 57.99, but years later being changed to a 58.99. But regardless, this time just seemed brutal to beat. And then McHazard came along and changed everything. In his tool-assisted speedrun, one of the 8 fights that McHazard improved was Vol.1. And a few months later, Zallard used it to do attempts to beat Turk's 58.99. McHazard's Phase 1 was discovered by Martin Charlebois 15 years before his task came out. It involved alternating face punches to get stars and using star punches into his rolling jabs. It was easy, it had no randomness, and it always got bull down at 17 seconds with 1 star. Phase 2 was a bit tougher. You need a 50-50 random star at the start of the phase, then land a 2-frame punch just as bull is lowering his guard and get another random star just after. You then need a 25% pattern where bull throws more rolling jabs and can send him down with 3 stars in your inventory. For Phase 3, Zallard used a slightly safer version of McHazard's fight. To pull it off, you need the 75% pattern without rolling jabs, then depending on his pattern after, potentially need to land a frame-perfect star punch after his uppercut. That's a 1/60th of a second window to time it. Across all 3 phases, that works out to odds of about 1 in 21, about twice as good as Turk's fight, and the execution was a bit easier too. So, Zallard set out to improve Turk's time, and on June 22, 2014, he came through and got a 57.00, beating Turk by nearly a full second. Keep in mind though, McHazard's task time was 55.25, so although Turk was off of his task by about 0.15, Zallard was slower than his by almost 2 full seconds. That's how much McHazard's strat was able to help. For Vol.2, it was once again McHazard to the rescue. Turk achieved his time of 121.82 by landing extremely random punches called bulldozers. When Bull's guard is down, if you hit him in the face but let go of up while the punch is going off, it's possible the punch will get through his guard and hit him for a star. Problem is, when I say possible, I mean it has a 1 in 16 chance of actually going through. It was possible to beat Matt Turk's time using 2 bulldozers and getting a specific pattern from Bull after, but the odds in it were over 1 in 1,000. So McHazard found a way around it. When Bull's guard is up, he found you can punch him in the gut and tap up while the punch is going off to potentially sneak the punch through his guard. It was called a misdirected gut punch, and you could do it whenever you'd normally do a bulldozer. And rather than a 1 in 16 chance of going through, the misdirected gut punch had a 1 in 4 chance. So instead of odds of over 1 in 1,000 of beating Turk's time, the odds were only about 1 in 64. That was enough to get Sinister to start grinding to beat it. The execution wasn't too hard. The 2 rolling jab counters at the start were the hardest part, and they each had a